everyone, my name is Jennifer Stay. Welcome to Coloring Bliss. I'm here with my sweet little dog Rose, and today we're going to be painting and coloring with gouache. What is gouache? How does it work? Should you be using it? Those are the kinds of questions we're going to be answering in this video. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a long video, but I am going to provide timestamps for you so that you can skip around and easily maneuver through this video and find exactly the information you're looking for. Or you can just sit back, let it play, and enjoy all the beautiful colors, all the beautiful art supplies, and all the information I'm going to be sharing throughout this video. If you like this kind of content, make sure you subscribe to my channel and consider hitting that like button so that I can continue to make this kind of video for you. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so what is gouache? Let me show you what I have in front of me here. I've got all kinds of products going on in front of me. Specifically, I am working with the Arteza Goauche. I've been swatching the 60 set. Now, originally I was sent by Arteza way back in, I think, December, the 24 Arteza Gouache color set, which I really have been enjoying, and I've been so excited to do a video about them. Now, as you guys know, whenever I am sent products by a company, the first thing I say to that company is, yes, I would love to have a product sent to me from you, but remember that I will always be 100% honest with all of my viewers and give my opinion, whether it's negative or positive. So please be confident in my feelings and the thoughts that I share with you on this channel about any products that I share with you. So this is the Arteza 24 set. I'm really excited about the colors they provide. Let me show you the swatches that I did. Arteza also sent me some of these really cool little watercolor pads that are the perfect size for your purse. They're the 5.5 by 8.5, and I think you get 3 to a set when you get these types of watercolor pads from Arteza, and I've really enjoyed them. It's not the highest quality watercolor paper, but it's a really good, nice texture, and it's fun kind of mixed media paper. Lots of fun to work in. I've enjoyed it. They also sent me this set of 15 miniature brushes, and I haven't cracked into these yet. I think we'll probably break into these today while we're doing some coloring with the Arteza Goauche, and we'll see how well they work. So we'll look forward to that. But the main attraction, the thing that we are here to talk about, is the gouache, and I love coloring with gouache. I heard all kinds of things about this weird painting supply called gouache, and I wanted to try it, and I just really enjoy it. So these are the colors you get in the 24 set. It also comes in a 60 set, and you can also get their metallic gouache. And what I like about the 60 set is it includes the metallics. So I originally received the 24 set and have spent a lot of time doing art and enjoying myself with the gouache. Let me show you. This is one of the very first pieces that I did with the gouache, kind of experimenting and trying out, you know, the special properties of gouache, which we're going to talk about. For instance, see how you can put white on top? This is that working dark to light, which is very different and unique from watercolor painting, where you typically work light to dark. So with gouache, you can work dark to light. Really fun. So that's what we're going to be playing around with later on in the video, is actually applying paint to paper and seeing what we can do with it. So this is the 24 set, beautiful colors. You can mix and play with them and get lots of different colors, just like you do with watercolor. So a 24 set is a really good starter place, and Arteza always has really good prices. I'll have links to all these products in my description of this video. I also have an Amazon storefront you can check out, where I'll have links to all kinds of products that I really highly recommend everyone. So after I told my followers that I was enjoying my 24 Arteza Gouache and that I really wished I had more of them, I had a follower that said, you know what, I have the 60 set and I kind of would like to share them with you. So she sent me the big box, and look at this. You get this huge box full of all 60. So that's what I'm in the middle of swatching right now, is the full 60. And I'm really grateful that she sent me this because I get to try out the metallics. Now, what the metallic gouache is basically a standard gouache with a little mica mixed in. At least that's what I'm experimenting or experiencing as I am swatching. So let me show you so far what we've got with the 60 set. I've got all of these swatched so far, and look at the beautiful pastel colors. We've got some really poppy, bright fluorescent colors. They just look so lovely here. And here's where we've got the next that we need to work on together. And you're going to watch me swatch these ones, and then let me show you what the metallics are looking for, or are looking like. Here are the ones I've been swatching the metallics on to black paper as well, because I wanted to see how they look. You know, we've swatched a lot of metallic paints here on this channel, and it always looks a little bit different on black. So that's why I wanted to swatch them both on white and black. So for instance, here is Pearl White Rose on white, and here it is on the black. And I wanted to see just how reflective, there, can you see how reflective the pearl and the silver are? And here you can see them. Some of them seem to be a little bit more reflective than others. And it's, you know, I think it's a little bit to be expected because gouache by its nature has sort of a chalky binder to it. And that's where some of its opaqueness comes from, is this chalky binder. So I would think mixing the chalky binder into the mica type product would bring down some of its reflectiveness, but we'll see. We've got 3 more that we get to swatch, and we'll see and kind of hold judgment till the end. So what is gouache? Let me explain really quick to you a little bit about the difference between gouache and watercolor, because they're sort of the same family. They're both water activated. They both come in tubes or in pans, although gouache tends to come mostly in tubes. That's the easiest and most frequently found form of gouache. Gouache can sit in a palette, just like you see right here. I've got the tiny little samples that I've been squirting out so that I can do my swatching. They can sit in a palette like this, and then you can spray it with water, reactivate it, and keep painting with it, just like you would with watercolor. I have a balloon here. In case you were wondering, some of these little tubes are really difficult to get into, so I have a balloon here to help me open the tubes without hurting my fingers. That's why that's there. So you can put them into a palette if you want to. Now, when I first got my original 24 Arteza from Arteza, that's the first thing I wanted to test, because I watched a lot of other YouTubers with a lot of ideas of how to take your tubes and put them into a palette so they're a little easier to work with on the go or sitting at a sofa. You don't have to have a tube that you're always squirting a little bit out. You can have a palette that you spray, activate, and start painting with. So this was my attempt to create my own palette with the original 24 that I was sent from Arteza. So let me show you how that turned out. I purchased this metal tin. It was just an empty one off of Amazon. Here's a little swatch chart that I made to keep with the tin. So let me show you here how this works and how it looks. So there are some problems with doing it this way. These are full pan sizes here, and what I did was squirt a whole bunch into each of these pans, and each pan has the name of the color that I squirted squirted into it, written on the front. So I wrote Burnt Umber number 108. So if I ever wanted to replenish that pan, I could. I'd get the right color in the right pan. But as you can see, the paint just kind of breaks up, it goes into crumbs, and it gets really loose. So it becomes a bit of a mess, and the crumbs can travel from pan to pan, and it can contaminate the other colors. So if this burnt umber just crumbled off a little bit and got into my yellow, it would contaminate that yellow color. And just looking around in the pan, I can see some of the blue has gotten into my red, and the black has been traveling around too, I can tell. So it's not the most perfect solution. Why does this happen? It has to do with the binders of gouache. There is more chalk in there than there is with a standard watercolor. You can just take watercolor tubes and do this. You can squirt your watercolor paint into little pans like this and create your own palette. And typically it won't break up into little chunks like this and become a problem for you. Not always. Let me show you where I did this with watercolor and had mixed results. This is my kind of solution for now. I've been putting a thick piece of paper towel here, and then when you close it like this, it kind of holds it down and keeps the crumbs in the right pan, and that's been working good. Now there's lots of YouTube videos out there where they have suggestions like mixing honey in or glycerin in. There's other additives that you can mix into the paint when you're creating your palette, and that will make it so that it doesn't become quite so crumbly as it's drying. But I've never tried that, so I can't give you any advice in that field. I will put a link in the video description of a video I've watched where someone tried that with some mixed good and bad results for their palette. So I will link that though in case you want to try that with your own palette. So let me show you some watercolors that I sampled and had some mixed results. Okay, so I've been doing a lot of watercolor swatching here on my channel, and here are some paints that I squirted into just an inexpensive plastic palette for swatching. And you can see right here, all of these watercolors have broken up just like a gouache would. And that brand, let's see, was Royal Langnickel. So it wasn't a really cheap brand, but not a really expensive brand either. It had exactly the same problem gouache would. So, you know, it's not just gouache that has this problem. These ones over here were just fine. They didn't have any problem and would have worked just fine inside of a pan like this. So, you know, I guess it's just kind of up to the kind of paint you get, the kind of binders in the paint. So yeah, it was a very interesting thing to see that happen to regular watercolor paint. Okay, so we've talked about that gouache is very similar to watercolor. You can reactivate it with water. You can try putting it into a palette like this, but you might have some crumbling issues. So we've talked about all of those things. So why would you want to try gouache over watercolor? That is the question, right? A lot of you probably have watercolor already and you're wondering, should I even buy gouache? Now, the exciting thing about gouache is that it acts very similar to watercolor. So if you have watercolor brushes and tools for watercolor, you can use all those same things with your gouache. But it does paint down differently. Gouache is very opaque. Let's look at my swatches here. You can see I have my black line that I draw inside each of the gouache sampling swatching squares. And that's so that we can see just how opaque the paint is. So what I do is I lay down a full strength amount of paint at the top, and then I add a little water to wash it down just to see what the paint's going to look like when it's watered down, which you can do with gouache just like you do with watercolor. So you can see just how opaque these paints are. Look at that. It gets super opaque, which is really fun, and that is why you can work from dark to light with your watercolor. Now this is more, to me, more instinctual. This is more the way I like to work with my art. I like to lay down my darks and then lay down my highlights, and it's just more the way my brain works. And so opaque gouache colors just seem to be more instinctual for me, and I like that. So when I first started playing around with gouache, it just came really natural and I didn't have to force anything. Where when I worked with watercolor for the first time, it was really difficult. Watercolor tends to be very translucent. Let's look at some samples of watercolor. Okay, here is my other swatch book where I've been swatching a lot of watercolor paints. I just opened up to this one. These are some less expensive here, the Mailing watercolor, and then here's some more expensive type paints, the Mission Gold Pure Pigment. And you can see every single black line because of the translucency of the paint. The black line just shows straight through. The white of the paper just shows straight through. And that's the wonderful, beautiful nature of watercolor paints. And you can work with that and create washes and do some beautiful glowing type watercolor effects with watercolor. And that's why watercolorists love it. Now, let's look at the gouache again. Look at that. It is so opaque. You can't see those black lines, and it dries, other than the metallics, it dries flat, no reflection. So if you want to take photographs of your finished piece of art like an illustrator would or designer would, gouache is the one to reach for. Of course, the ones with mica in it are reflective, glittery, metallic ones. Those wouldn't be perfect for taking photographs, but they are a lot of fun to color with, aren't they? So that's one of the advantages of gouache. Now, if you have watercolors and you want to try some gouache effects, you can just add some white to it. In fact, I have a set of watercolors right here, a professional Winsor & Newton set right here that I purchased long ago, and it came with a white pan in it, and it is the Chinese white is what it's called. And Chinese white, I think, is PW4 is the name of the pigment. And Chinese white is perfect for mixing into other colors and getting a gouache effect. So if you want to try gouache without purchasing gouache, then I would recommend you pick up some Chinese white or the PW4 pigmented white and just mix it into your normal watercolor, and you're going to get a bit of that gouache effect. And you can play with it and see if you like it before purchasing a full gouache set. So I thought that was interesting that even Winsor & Newton included white in their set so that you could play around with gouache type effects. Now, another thing gouache is great for is highlights. So if you've been wanting to add highlights to a piece of art and it's really hard with a translucent type medium like this, you need an opaque white so that you can add that highlight to it. And gouache is so great for that. So typically it's the titanium white. So there's two different whites, the Chinese white, which is that PW4, and then there is the titanium white, which is, I believe, PW6. Let me make sure. Yeah. Titanium white is PW6, and that one is typically a cooler white, and it will give you a really strong, bright white highlight. And both whites that are included in the Gouache Arteza set are both a PW6 white. I don't know why they gave us both. It would be kind of nice if they had given us instead of both being PW6, I kind of wish we had gotten both whites, the Chinese and the titanium white, so we would have had some to play with. But that's all right. 2 tubes of this good white is really good. So, Anyway, so you can pick up just one tube of the gouache white if you want to play around with a product that will give you a nice opaque highlight. I know a lot of artists just pick up that one tube of titanium white just for that purpose. So you can look for that in your local art store. Okay, so I've covered a lot of information about gouache. There's a lot more to cover, which we can talk about as we get back into the part of the video where we're going to actually be applying color to a page and having fun mixing colors and laying down colors. So, but right now I want to get back to finishing up swatching the final, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 24 more colors of the Arteza paints. And we can see how it goes down and kind of talk a little bit about swatching gouache and how it feels and how you do it. So let's get into the swatching segment of this video. Okay, so I'm working in my watercolor swatch book. If you're interested in my swatch books, I have lots of different choices for you at the Bliss print shop. This is volume 2 Swatch Bliss, and I'm working on the 36 swatch page. I've got it all set up, and I basically set it up according to the box. On the back of the gouache box, it had all the colors listed, and I decided just to follow their number list, their color list, and not to try to come up with my own color list. It seemed the simplest. They do on each tube of their paints. Let's bring up the next one. We're on olive green. Okay, so this is what the tubes look like. So it has the color name down here. It says olive green. It has 3 plus signs, which is referring to the light fastness. So according to this, it's got a really high, good light fastness. Not sure what that means. Does that mean it's going to last 10 years, 5 years, 100 years, 1 year? I don't know what that means. Then it's going to have a transparency rating. So they have a solid block, half and half block, and an empty block for their transparency. So I'm assuming the solid block they're saying are the most transparent versus the empty block is probably the least transparent. No, did I say that wrong? The solid block are the most opaque and the empty block are the most transparent. There, I said it correctly. So we'll see if we feel like we agree with their transparency symbols here when we get done, because some are coming across more transparent than others. And then they have the pigment numbers on each container as well. So here we've got olive green. It's got 3 plus signs, so their highest light fastness. It's got a solid square, so they're calling it very opaque. And then it's got tons of little pigment numbers on here. 1, 2, 3, 4 different pigment numbers to make up this one color of olive green. And then this is the number of the color, A for Arteza, I assume, and then 142. So that's what you get from each of these bottles. That's what each of these tubes, and then that's what the back looks like. So like I said, this was sent to me by a friend here, this set of 60. So what she did was she squirted out what she wanted from each of the tubes and then sent the rest my way. So that's why the tubes look a little bit empty, because she already took out what she wanted. So it's a great way to share products with each other. Okay, so what I've been doing is on this giant palette that I have, I've been taking off the lids, and some of the crumbs fall almost every time. So this is my crumb catcher here, and I've been using my balloon to take off the lid and let the crumbs fall. And then I've been checking the bottle because some of them have been a little oily, like the paint has separated a little bit. This one looks good though. So we will put a small dab, just a tiny little dab right there is all we need for swatching. Put the lid back on. Okay. And then I've got 2 vessels of water. over here, and I've got a video that I will link in the description on why I use 2 water vessels and how I keep my brushes clean. And this has been extra important with the gouache paint because there's more chalky fillers. It's a little bit more difficult to clean off your brush and keep the brush clean with fresh water. So yeah, I highly recommend watching that video about cleaning your brushes. I'm also using my new Mimik brushes by Creative Mark, and I have links to these brushes as well. I'm still really enjoying it. These brushes. This is the number 8 round. I've been using this one because it's a good fit for the little swatch squares. So it's not too big, not too small. Okay, so we get this wet. Move these out of the way. And I don't want my brush too wet. Okay, and I don't need it too wet because, of course, the paint comes out of the tube already wet, which is the advantage of tube paints over paints in a pan. They also call them cakes. Especially with gouache, they call them cakes. Okay, so let me get this to where you can see it from this angle. And you can see just how opaque it goes down. And I've been painting about halfway down. And then washing off my brush. And then just with a damp brush, washing it down like this. Now, I like doing this because I like to see the undertones, and with the white of the paper, it kind of shines up through that paint and shows me the undertones of that paint. You can see the yellow comes up and through. You can really learn a lot from adding a little bit of water. So here we see how opaque, we see the undertones. We learn a lot from this one little swatch. Now we can also see how different the band color on the tube is versus the actual swatch. Now we need to let this dry because gouache does dry a little differently than it looks when it's wet. So it's really important to let it dry. Typically, drying can cause paint color to change, like the light can go a little darker and dark can go a little lighter. So swatches are really important. Then we can see what our paints will look like when we're choosing colors. Okay, let's do another color. And the next one is eucalyptus, and this is a pearl. So this one is one of our metallic paints, and there are 12 metallic paints in the total set, and you get all 12 with the 60, or you can buy them separately from Arteza. And it's easy to know which ones are the metallics because they all have the word mica on the side of one of their pigments is listed mica. So this says pearl eucalyptus. It's got still a high light fastness, and it's A287. So let's take the lid off, let the crumbs fall, and you can take a peek with me at what that looks like. Looks really pretty. Put a little swatch down. Let the paint go back down inside. Cap on. Okay. Now let's see what this is going to look like. Let me get this on here. Here's that pretty pearl paint. And we'll swatch this on both the white, and we're going to swatch it on the black. Now all of the paints that have the mica in it seem to be extra creamy. More creamy than the standard gouaches. So I don't know what fillers they're adding to them, but they seem like there's something else going on. Makes it just a little more creamy. Feels almost like an acrylic. And a lot of times gouache is called like a cross between acrylic and watercolor is kind of what people call it. Okay, that's what the pearl eucalyptus looks like on white. Let's see what it's going to look like on black. Pick up some here. Pretty. I like the metallics. This black paper I'm using today is just some standard black cardstock, nothing special. And my plan is to tape this little card into my swatch book. So I'll always have this little card as reference with these swatches. Okay, that's what it looks like on the black. Okay, next color is sap green. Lots of crumbs on that one. Okay, this one's a little bit messy. Okay. And it's a little bit separated. So what we're going to do is sort of squish the tube this direction to create more of a large cavity at the bottom. And ever so carefully do a squish this way and a squish that way and kind of mix it. There, now it's looking a little less separated. Okay. Good. Now if we wanted to, take a bit of our paper towel and some clean water, and we can clean off this edge here. Like I said, you can reactivate the paint with water, so that's basically what I'm doing, and cleaning off the threads here so it will seal up really good with the lid. There, that's a little cleaner. Okay, let's swatch sap green. It's a pretty color. A little too wet still. There, that's better. Okay, next color is Viridian Green. This one. This one is a little bit separated, but not bad. Definitely more blue undertones on that color. Very pretty. Okay, the next one is another one of our metallic paints. This is Pearl Emerald Green. This one right here. Again, it says mica on it. Okay. Pretty.
Can we speak?
So we've got some of the Pearl Emerald. Let's see what it's going to do. Oh, look at that. That's some pretty paint. Let's go this direction with the camera. See what I mean about it being more creamy? Very opaque. Ooh, looks pretty with that Viridian green next to it. Although as it's getting wet, you can see more yellowish undertones are coming out too. That's interesting. Interesting. Let's see what it looks like on black. Okay. Pick up the pearl green. Ooh, look at that. So pretty. Wow. That paint likes to be on black. Mica's, anything with mica in it sure likes to be on black. Very pretty. Oh, I don't know, that might be my favorite one so far. We'll see as it dries down. Wow, that's pretty. Okay, seaweed is next. Okay. I think we're okay. Good. Wow, that one's really opaque too. Okay. Now, that finishes this tray off, so I'm going to put that tray kind of to the back. And we move on to deep green. Right here. This one's got that symbol that means it's partially opaque. We'll see what it does. Ooh. Wow, that's a really dark green. Excited to hit it with water. This is one of those really good examples of why I like doing the water, because it's hard to see the undertones on this one because it's such a dark color. But as soon as we introduce the water, we'll see whether it's more of a yellowy undertone or more of a bluish undertone. There, now you can see the white of the paper comes up through, and you can see the undertones. We're definitely dealing with a green that has bluish undertones. Very pretty. Okay, next one is pale green. Okay. See, now that one was marked as it wasn't as opaque, but definitely seemed opaque to me. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with some of their symbols. Okay. Well, lots came out of pale green. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to use whatever I have on my swatching palette here for the piece of art I'm going to create at the end of this video, so we don't have any of this paint go to waste. Okay, here comes pale green. Very pretty. Okay, now sage green. This one here. Oh, this one looks all right. Lots of greens. Pretty. Okay, Naples yellow is next. That's this one right here. Wow, that paint does not match the band. We'll see what the swatch looks like. Okay, let's see. I think we'll come over to this little well. Oh, it kind of matches my fingernail. Okay, Naples yellow. I think we'll get just a little bit more. There we go. This would be a good one for skin tones. Okay, next one is light apricot. Yeah, this one with the Naples yellow. This is a little on the pinky side for a skin tone, but with the Naples yellow, I think you could get some good skin tone mix here. Okay, next one is latte brown. Okay. Another good skin tone candidate. Very pretty. All right, that finishes up that tray. We can move on to tan. Two more trays to go. And I think we've still got one more metallic down here too. Okay, tan. All of these along here are really good tones for skin. Okay, burnt umber is next. So that one. Ooh, lots of crumbs. Yeah, this one's a little bit oily. Mix it just a little bit. There, that's a little better. Nice deep color. All right, Bordeaux red is next. That's this one. Ooh. I'll make a pretty lip color. Not too red, but red enough. Okay, the next one is gray, and I think this might be the only gray we get in this set. Of course, we could make our own gray, mixing a little bit of the white in with the black that we get. I think we have a black. How did I say that? Let me make sure. We have silver, and then we have this gray. And yeah, we have noir, which is a black. So we'll see what that black does. Okay. The fun part of watercolor type paints is being able to mix, and you can do the same thing with gouache. You can mix your own custom colors. So, do you really need the 60 set? You could probably get away with the 24 set because of all the mixing that you can do. Having the full 60 set is a lot of fun. You don't have to do as much of your own mixing. And plus, when you have the 60 set, you probably can find a color that's really close to what you want and then mix it right to exactly what you want. So some of that mixing is pre-done for you. Plus the 60 set has all the metallics, which is a lot of fun. if we decide we like the metallics, I guess. This one is stone blue, and then we'll do the last metallic one right there. No crumbs on stone blue. Ooh, this is going to be a pretty color. This is kind of Payne's gray type look to me. Stone blue. All right, now our last metallic we get to swatch, and it's going to be this Pearl Aqua Blue, this one right here. Ooh. Get it on my brush here. Ooh. That is a very pretty blue. That is the kind of blue that Steve, my husband and business partner, loves. Steve, you want to see this blue?
Really nice.
This is the last of the 12 metallics in the set. Okay, let's see what it's going to look like on black. Okay, here's our black. Grab some on the brush and see what it looks like. Ooh, that is beautiful. That is very pretty. Okay, let's give it some time to dry and then we'll look back at all of them. All right, now we get to move on to our final row here and our final tray of paints. Let's trade them here. Okay. You can see just how messy the water gets because of all the gouache. Whatever the fillers are, it really makes the water messy. All right, cerulean. That's this one. Looking good. Ooh. That's a beautiful cerulean blue. Overall, I'm really impressed with Arteza Goauche. Now, I don't have a ton of experience with a lot of different brands of gouache. So what I'm looking for in gouache, in any art product, is good consistency, vibrant colors, predictability in the product. So from one tube to the next, I feel like, yeah, you know, same fillers, same feel. I feel like I could mix the colors, that kind of thing. And the Arteza gives me that feeling. Now, I'm not going for professional results here, as far as I'm not going to be selling my art, so I'm not too concerned about light, fast ratings and things that a professional artist is looking for. So you can go to other channels to get reviews on more professional grade gouaches. But as far as the price point of the Arteza Goauche and the consistency and the quality and the variety of colors, I'm really happy with this as an art tool. I use a lot of art tools, and so I kind of know what I'm looking for, and I've been really happy with this so far. And I've worked with the gouache on and off for the last, what is that, since December, so 7-8 months, and I haven't found anything to complain about. Okay, this is violet. Let's see what it does when we hit it with the water. You guys know, if you've been around here much, purple is my favorite color, so let's see. Oh yeah. Very pretty. Okay, the next one is Aegean blue. I think that's how you say it. I'll show it to you, and you can tell me if I'm saying it right. Aegean blue. Okay. Now, do I wish that it was in pans versus tubes? That's probably the only thing, and that's mainly because I am accustomed to painting with pans. With my watercolors, I like having my pans handy. I can throw it in my bag. It's easy to just spray all the pans with a little spritzer, and that activates them, and away you go. With tubes, you have to have a separate palette. You squirt it out. It's a little bit messier, but I love how you can get this really deep, intense color straight from the tube. That's really beneficial, especially with wanting a real opaque coverage, which when we start in on the part of this video where we're actually doing some painting, you'll see how fun it is to be able to get such an opaque coverage on different areas of your art. So having it come straight from the tube lets you do this really easily. Get that nice, deep, dark, not dark, but opaque coverage. Okay, next one is Noir, our black one. Let's see what it looks like. Oh, it's a little separated, so we're gonna try to stir it just a little bit with pinching. So I've seen some YouTubers where they will put the gouache into sealed containers so that as it breaks up into little chunks, it won't crumble and get mixed into your other colors. So that's another option if you still want to buy these tubes and then make it into some sort of more portable palette-like setup. Lots of options. But like I said, there are some brands that sell them already in cake form or pan form, but not a lot. I think Caran d'Ache has some in the pan form. I've never tried them though. Okay, ultramarine blue. These are our last two, ultramarine and Prussian blue. Well, lots came out. Oh, that's a pretty color. I got way too much on my brush. I'm going to kind of scrape some off over here. Ooh, pretty blue. All right, last one is our Prussian blue. Got too much on my brush again. Okay, here we go. See what the difference is between Prussian blue and ultramarine blue. Right now there doesn't look like much of a difference, but it's when we hit it with that water that the undertones are going to show. Look at that. That ultramarine definitely has more violet type undertones. Big difference. Again, shows you why we do that water down part of the swatching step. Really helps. Look how dirty the water is. So dirty. All right. So we've got all the swatches done. Looks beautiful. We're going to let them dry really good now. And the next step now that I'd like to do with you is do some actual artwork with our beautiful colors. Kind of want to use what we have in our big palette here and see what we can create. So that's going to be the next step of this video. I'm going to take a break though. I have to film a live event. If you've never joined us for a live event, I highly recommend it. We're here every week on Wednesday night doing live events with our YouTube audience. So let me put a little card up so you can see what time you can come and join us. We're 6 p.m. Mountain Time on Facebook and then 7 p.m. here with YouTube. So come and join us on Wednesdays. I'm going to go film that right now with our live audience. You can come and ask your questions and enjoy some fun art time. That's what we do during our live events. So I'm going to go film that, and then tomorrow I'm going to film the second part of this video for you about the Arteza Goauche. We're going to actually take the colors and apply it to a coloring page. And like I said before, the cool thing about gouache is that I can reactivate all this paint. It's not going to go to waste like an acrylic paint, where if I put it on a palette like this and walk away and come back tomorrow, I just have to chip it off and start fresh. But nope, none of this paint's going to go to waste. I can just spray it with a little spritzer, reactivate it, and start working on my piece of art tomorrow. So all right, for you, this is going to start right away. For the next part, for me, I'm going to go film a live event. So we'll see you in a minute. Okay everyone, it's day 2 of our gouache project, and the swatches have had a lot of time to set and dry now, so let's take a good look at them and see how we feel about how they turned out. Okay, so we need to look at the metallics and see how we feel about the metallics, and then just overall, how do we feel about the colors we've been given in this large 60 set? Do we have enough blues, enough greens, enough yellows, all those kinds of questions. So first off, let's look at the metallics. So anywhere where you see an asterisk is where they are the metallic type colors, and then we can look at them here on the black. As you can see, the milkiness, the chalky additives to the gouache really show through on the black, which is okay because it makes it very opaque. And some of them are definitely more shiny than others. I'm going to move them in the light. These down here, especially these two, are really shiny, and so is the pearl eucalyptus, but some of them are falling a little bit flat in the metallic world, in my opinion. The pearl scarlet. So let's look at pearl scarlet here on white and see if it looks a little more metallic here. No, see, this one's not looking very metallic in either place. So some of them are better metallics than other. Here's that bronze that looks really good both on white and on black. That is a really good metallic. Same with the gold down here. It's catching the light in both places, on the black and on the white. So the metallics are sort of a hit or miss for me. But they are fun to have included here in the 60 gouache set. So definitely a perk. That pearl looks pretty. Let's see how it looks on black. Yeah, it's just sort of a mediocre metallic, but that gold and the bronze, I think those are definitely the winners in the metallic range, those two colors. Okay, now let's look at the 60 overall. We've got these really beautiful pastel set up here. This is the set that's really calling my name for the project I want to do today with all of you. And then it goes into these greens and blues. I'm trying to look and see what we've got for skin tones. These here with that tan would make a good skin tone. We've got this nice pink and taupe, and these here would also help with the skin tones. As far as doing nature, let's look at greens and browns for nature. Got a couple good selections here for leaves and doing nature. More in the way of blue greens than in more of a yellowy green though. Yeah, we've got one lime green over here on this side. So yeah, it's definitely leaning towards a blue-green palette. And then as far as deep browns, we've got one burnt umber that's a nice deep brown. Oh, here we go. We've got a burnt sienna as well. So we've got a couple good deep brown colors. You have to remember with gouache, you can always add white and get even more into these pastel ranges. So you need a really good deep colors because you can always lighten the colors. So that's why I keep looking for these really vibrant tones to make sure we have been taken care of in that area. Like we've got some really good deep blues. We've got a good deep violet color. Again, in the greens, we've got a good bluish undertoned green. So I think it's really a good set. Let's look at the 24 set now. If all you wanted to do was invest in the set of 24, maybe you don't want to be hauling around 60 tubes of paint, or you don't want to invest in the big set. You just want to try a smaller set. Let's look at the 24 and see if that's a good place to begin. Again, remember, any of these you can add the white to get more of the pastel range. So if you're like me and you're like, ooh, these pastel colors are beautiful, you can create any of those just by adding the white into any of these. So like these colors here, easily you can add the white and get this same mauve color, these same light peachy colors. All of those colors can be created in this set here. So when I'm looking at a smaller set of paint colors, I'm looking for deep, vibrant tones and that they have covered everything on the color wheel. So do we have greens? So we can do our natures. Do we have browns? Yeah. Do we have something to do skin tones? Yeah, and we can mix other colors to get some different skin tones. We've got some blues, oranges. Yeah, and we could mix more to get more oranges. Kind of only one in the orangish area. This is sort of a yellowy orange here. Yellow is sort of lacking here. We've got two in the yellow area. Nothing other than that. So yellow might be the only place that I'm seeing. We've got good red. Yeah, yellow might be, here we've got some good blues. So I would say yellow is probably its weakest place in the Arteza Goauche 24 set. But you do get 2 tubes of white, which might feel like a little excessive, but it's good because we would be doing a lot of mixing with white to get more of these pastel tones. And then again, we use our white as the highlights, like I said at the beginning of the video. So in gouache world, white is kind of an important color, where in watercolor world, white is less important because you let the white of the paper show through. So I think that's why Arteza has chosen in both sets, both the 60 and the 24, to include 2 tubes of white. Okay, so that's my feelings on the 2 sets. I think you would be happy with either one. If you want to go for the full set syndrome, 60 colors, get all the metallics and everything, I think you're going to be really happy. Of course, now you've got this big box with 60 tubes you have to deal with and decide how you're going to manage that in your art studio. Or you could go for a more simple 24 set that's a little easier to manage. No metallics, but lots of options for mixing and for creating beautiful colors. Okay, so that's my colors. Let's go ahead and put this. This is my metallics on black. I want to put it into this chart so I don't lose it. And I'm going to start out by taping it down like this. I want to make it so it's kind of on a hinge. So I need a longer piece to go across here like that, and then it will hinge back on itself, and put another piece right here, and then I will always have the metallics swatched on black right here in my swatch book. Won't have to go hunting for it or searching for it. It will always be here. And then I think on another day, another time, what I'm going to do is mark on these swatches which of these 24 come in the 24 set, so that I'll always remember in the 60 set which of the 24 are included in the 24 set. Okay, so that's my swatches. They're all ready for us to refer back to and pick colors. And let me show you what my plan is for the project we are going to color and work on together. I've got the brushes we're going to play with that Arteza sent me. This is the palette that I used to swatch all of those paints. So I have a little bit of every color here, including some fun crumbs that I'm wondering if we can do something fun with the background with the crumbs. We'll see. I don't know. I'm hoping I can do something kind of fun and unpredictable for the background. So this is what I'd like to work with for the piece of art, so we don't waste any of these beautiful colors. And then of course I have all the tubes of paint handy if we want to use any of them. So I'm going to be working on a mandala. I love working with mandalas for new art mediums that I'm still learning with, because it gives you lots of space, repeated patterns, areas to really experiment and learn in. This book here is Mandala Bliss Volume 3. It's the set of mandalas that I created with more open spaces, simpler mandalas, less details, so that you have room to explore an art medium and really enjoy it. This one here was printed on watercolor paper, so it's going to be perfect for our gouache. I've been working in it, and here's one that we worked on during the live event I mentioned I was going to be recording. Haven't finished it yet. So let's just flip to the next one. I think this will be perfect right here. Lots of space to work in, and we can play with different colors and experiment and just have a really good time. So I'm going to move this. This is my extra copy of that book that Arteza sent me. The next thing we are going to need is a water mister, because we're going to need to reactivate all of this dry paint. So and then we're going to need our brushes, and I'm going to try using this miniature brush set that Arteza sent me and see how they work. So it looks like we got 15 brushes here, 5 liners, 5 spots, and 5 rounds. It says don't let the paint dry on the brush, never leave the brush in the water. Wipe off the excess paint by squeezing the bristles. Remove oil by rinsing the brush in odorless thinner or mineral spirits. So it's just giving you some good wash gently using mild soap, shake off the water, and then reform the bristles and let it room dry. Just general good information on how to care for any brush. Okay, so let's see what these look like. Oh, all the little caps have been falling off. Okay. Okay, let's see if I can tell which are which here. So we should have 5 liners and 5 spots. Let's see how they are labeled. Oh yeah, they say round, liner, round. Good. Okay, that makes things easy. Take all the little round caps off that protect the bristles, and they all have a little bit of that glue on them to keep the bristles all nice and straight during packaging. So we're going to need to wash them all off. And I've got fresh, clean water for today's project. So we'll just rinse these off real quick. Yep, it's washing off real easy. Okay, so these are the liners. Look like this. They have longer bristles. That's the 0, and that's the 3. Here's what the spots look like. They just look like rounds. All of them look like rounds to me. The picture makes the spot ones look a little wider, like they fan out. Oh, and I see. The round ones look like they have a rounded tip, flat tip, and come to a real point on the liners. Okay. I'll try to watch for that. Almost. kind of tugging on the bristles too for you. That's one way of knowing if that's a good quality brush, is if the bristles stay put when you give them a bit of a tug. So far all the bristles are staying put. Some of the bristles are a little messed up on this one, but not too bad. Okay, all of them are clean now, so we can work with them. Lots to pick from. Slide this over. Okay, and then I've got my Mimik handy in case we need something to cover a bigger area. Okay. All right, so we're going to reactivate these. Wake up, paint. See how pretty that looks with all the water droplets all over that palette. So pretty. Okay, so let's pick any old brush here. This is a 1 round. So I'll show you the difference here. This is a number 8 round and this is a number 1 round. Kind of a big difference there. And then we've got all the way up to a number 30 round here. Kind of fun to see the differences in shape and size here. All right. Okay, let's just pick an area and get started here. I've got lots of the orange gouache. When I was swatching, more than normal came out of that tube. So let's do an area with some orange in it. I'll grab this little one here. Rotate this around so you can see what I'm doing. We're going to wake this paint up, mix the water into it. So the advantage of working straight from the tube is that you don't have this step. You just squirt it straight into your palette or onto a plate, whatever surface you want to hold your paint, and then you're ready to go. You can start mixing and just get going. But if you're reactivating, you have this preliminary step. So that's one disadvantage. But if you're used to working with pans of any kind of watercolor, then you're very familiar with this step. You have to activate and get your paints going anyway. So this is not an unusual thing that you need to do. Okay, now I do want to tone this down just a little bit, so we're going to add a little white. I'm going to grab, now we have 2 kinds of white, right? We talked about this. We have our titanium white and the Chinese white. But with the Arteza set, they're both the PW6, and we have already talked about how Chinese white is typically PW4, and that's the one that you usually like to mix into colors. But we have both here. I mean, we have both the same pigment color, so we're just going to use it. I'm going to reserve the titanium white because that's what they're calling it for highlights, and we'll use this one that they're calling just plain white as our adding into colors. And I want to tone this one down just a little bit to make it feel a little bit more like a pastel orange. Oh, that lid does not want to come off. Come on. Maybe we'll be using the other white. Here, let's see. Maybe, let's see. see if the other tube from the other set is less stubborn. I've got the 60 set and the 24 set. There, that one opened up easy. Okay, so we're going to put just a little bit of this white into there. And let's mix it in. Pretty. Ooh, it looks like creamsicles. So this is what I was talking about with the 24 set. You can create any color that you can mix, even from a smaller set like the 24 set. Okay, I like that color. Okay, let's do the orange. Since we have a lot of it, let's come in here and start just laying it down. Okay, so while we're doing this, we can talk a little bit about, again, the properties of gouache. Now, because it's an opaque art medium, when you lay it down very undiluted, less amount of water here, it really lays down nice and opaque. You can even cover up pencil lines or illustration lines because it's so opaque. So that gives you some creative license with different illustrations you might be working with. Now, like you've just seen, we can reactivate dry paint. So that means if you have paint on your paper and you want to do another layer on top of it, you can reactivate layers of dry paint on your paper. So you need to be aware of that and be a little careful of that as you're working. That is a beautiful orange color we have created. I like that color a lot. We may need to mix some more as we get going. So we can go all the way around my mandala here. Now, another thing to remember about gouache is that it will dry to a different color, and that's very normal for any kind of wet medium. Even alcohol markers will look different as they dry. So I usually like to lay down my paint and then let it dry before I make any final decisions about whether I like the shading I've created or does it match the rest of the painting as far as tone, and does it need to be darkened or lightened. All those final questions can be determined after it's dried. Okay, let's give you a little bit of a different angle to look at. You can see how lovely this goes down. It's kind of gooping up on my brush here. looks very yellow on the screen. Here in person it's much more orangey. I wonder if I need to adjust the color settings again of the camera. I may need to get my rotating board out too. The other thing I've discovered is that gouache works really nice on mixed media paper and cardstock, and I think it's because I tend to use a lot less water than I do with watercolor paper. I mean with watercolor paints. So that's a benefit. If your coloring pages are printed on a nice cardstock and you've been wanting to try painting your coloring pages, I think gouache could be a good solution for you. Okay, my color here is getting a little dry again, so we're going to add a little water and stir it up, get it going again. And we may need to mix some more. Add a little bit more orange and a little bit more white. So we have enough to go all the way around this whole mandala. Okay, I'm going to use the... Oh, that's a terrible sound. Try to get the last crumbs of the paint loosened up here. There, I think it's all moving now. So let's add a little bit more orange. See if I can find the right tube of paint. Let's see, look at our swatches. 14, 15, so the 30th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's saffron orange we're working with. 195. Okay, saffron orange, where are you? Orange, red, saffron orange. There you are. Okay, put a tiny dollop of saffron orange in there and a tiny dollop of white. Okay. And then we're going to mix them up. Make them look beautiful. Let you enjoy the mixing here. Hopefully we'll get the same color. Looking good. Okay, that looks good to me. Might be a wee bit whiter, but again, we're comparing it to paint that has dried. So that's not fair. Only time will tell how well I did. Okay. Ooh, that was a lot. Pretty color. I think the straight down camera is showing the color a little bit better. Hey Steve, would you mind coming over and see if you can adjust the color on this camera? See how it's showing it really yellow? It's definitely a more orangey color. Oh, I keep putting my hand in the wet paint. That looks a little better, thank you. Okay. A little bit more. And we've got the first layer of our gouache down. Ooh, it's pretty. I like it. Okay, now I want to warm it up and do some shading. And right next to the orange, we've got this scarlet color here. So I'm wondering if I can lift it up and add it to that color and mix it in. Yeah, that's gonna work. Okay. Now though, okay, let's mix it in. Well, that's a strong scarlet color, really. There, now we're mixing in. So half the fun of paint is the mixing. So, a little of the scarlet goes a long way. Okay, so we are going to add some pretty shading on here now. Like this. And then with a clean brush, maybe this one. I grabbed the 0 round. I'm gonna get it wet. and gently activate the orange below and do a little soft mixing. So that was just with a wet brush. Okay, that looks pretty pretty. Okay, here we go again. Lay the paint down. Let it sort of feather out. Grab our wet brush. And gently activate. So here we're taking advantage of the properties of the gouache where we're activating the yellowish orange layer below. Okay. I think I'm going to get that rotating board now. It's official. I'll put a link to this rotating board. It's on our Amazon storefront as well. It's made by Totally Tiffany, and it's on oh, what is it called, Steve? Lazy Susan pivoting thingy. And it works great for mandalas because you can just rotate it to the correct angle and keep working. It's a little bit heavy, so to put it on your lap can be a little bit awkward, and they do make different sizes of this board. A little bit more water here. Soften that edge just a little bit more. Oh, that's perfect. Okay. It's turning out so pretty. Okay. trying to think about that gold. We have that really good gold metallic gouache that the 60 set came with. And I think that would look really pretty with this color we've created here. Okay, and I think I want to repeat this color at least one more place to give some nice balance and cohesion. So I'm going to lay it down here in this part of the mandala. And then we'll put something darker on top. Or lighter. That's the beauty of gouache. You can work dark to light or light to dark. It's turned out nice. Looks like my brush needs some washing soon. The gouache tends to kind of collect and start to dry up at the base of the bristles. And it can cause a bit of a problem if you don't rinse your brush off from time to time. And make sure you get all that washed off. So you want to keep an eye on that. Okay, that looks good. Oh, I'll show you what I mean about the brush. See, it's getting a bunch of gooky paint right there. So I'm just going to wash it off really good. And it's going to need some wiping because it's kind of dried on there. And looks like the bristles of these Arteza brushes are getting stained. Okay. All right, now I would like to add perhaps some of the scarlet now onto this one. We could do the same thing we did before. This is quite watered down. And then blend it in. like that. Okay. Now I need to pick a color that's going to look good with these orangey reds and orangey yellows that we've got going on here. To look at my palette here and see what color speaks to me. A little bit more of the deeper tone. There. I'll soften this a little bit too. There. Okay, let's see. Ooh, the greens are calling me. We could make a nice pastel-y, lemony, limey green. That could be really pretty. I wonder which green this one is over here. Let's see if we can figure it out. If we look at our swatches now, it's one that's went yellow and then sort of a goldy color and then a lime green. Yellow, a goldy color, and then a lime green. It's lime green. Okay, so let's find lime green 127. Lime green right here, 127. Okay, and then I'm thinking this one right next to it, which was olive green 142. 142 olive green. Okay, could be the dark for that one. All right. I like that. Now I'm going to move this over so you can see. So we're going to work in that little olive green section. Add some more water. Okay. And we got to make kind of a lot of paint here. So I'm going to add a nice little dollop of lime green, and I want it on the white side. Nice pastel color. So I'm going to add some white to it. Okay. Make sure my brush is clean, even though it's stained. Just want to make sure it's clean. Can you hear that dog outside, Rose? Okay, I think it's clean. It's just really stained. So I don't know if that's the gouache or if it's just because the nature of the bristles are taking on whatever color it was exposed to. I don't know. Okay, then I think I'm going to pick up whatever yellow this was and mix it in. What yellow was it? It was the lemon yellow. And we're going to mix it in with this color too, just so it doesn't go to waste. Okay, let's mix this. a new color. Very pastel lime green. Exactly what I wanted. Okay. And then in the spot next to it, I want to mix an olive green, but on the pastel-y side. So we'll add some water to activate that little puddle, and then some olive green, and trying to see if there's any colors that we could throw into it, but I don't think so. I'm not going to add too much white here because I want to keep it kind of dark. So just a little bit of white this time. And we'll mix that up with my brush that has the lime green on it, so it'll have naturally some of this color mixed into it. So it'll feel like they belong together. Okay, there's our two greens. Good. I like them. Especially like that lime green. Okay, let's work in, I think I want to go to the round sections with the greens. Yeah, and I think I'm going to lay down the darkest color first. And then we'll come in with the light. So this is opposite of how you would work with watercolor. Watercolor, you typically work lighter colors first. Okay. So I'm trying to think through what a third color now. I want to introduce a third color. And I definitely want to do the gold at the end. So I want to think about where I want the gold and where I want our third color. And what is that third color going to be? Do I want it to be a real poppy, like complementary type color? Or do I want it to be more subtle, just kind of a supporting color? And we're using a lot of muted, toned down colors, lots of tints of colors because we've added white to almost everything. Okay. Hopefully I've got enough of this dark green to do what I want to do, because now I want to come out here and do this band as well. Like that. Ooh, I like that. Let me show you the other angle. That looks pretty. We haven't even added the highlight color to it yet. It's one good thing about having 60 colors. It makes me pick colors I wouldn't normally pick, like this color, this greenish olive green color is not one of my go-to colors, but it looks so pretty with this yellowy orange. Hang in there, paint. We have a ways to go here. I guess I could always mix a little bit more. I was hoping I had mixed enough. It's looking like I haven't mixed enough. Kind of gives me the vibes of an old couch. I don't know who it was that had back in the 70s. Like a modern take on those colors. Okay, one more little section. Will my paint make it? Can I scrape enough out of this little make it. Come on, little. Oh, it's so close. I think we might make it. I think we made it. Woohoo! We made it. We made it. All right. Clean this brush up. Get any dried up green off of it. Yeah, now it's taken on the green color the bristles have. Interesting. Okay, now we're going to move on to the bright, happy green color that we made and add some of that onto this. And I think I want to have it on the edge like this. And have the dark green sort of coming through. Like that maybe, and then use the water to soften the edge and activate the green below just slightly so it will mix in. What do we think of that? I don't know if I like that. I don't think I do. Okay, so we're going to fix that by painting over it with our dark green. I'm going to see if I can kind of dab off some of that light, which I can't. So we're just going to paint over it with some of the dark green. Activate it with a little bit of water, what's left in our palette. Not too much water though, because the wetter this gets, the easier it is to activate the drier layer below. Okay. So instead, I think what I'm going to do is go the other way. Grab the bright and have the light. That's too much. Start in this part and come up. And then use my second brush like we did before. That will just be wet to soften the edge. All right, let's do this. Light. I just got paint all over. Okay, and then soften the edge with the wet, clean brush. I don't like that look. It looks better with less. Lifting a whole bunch of the paint off. Yeah, that looks better. So even more subtle than what I did. Okay, let's try it again. This is why I love working on a mandala. You have multiple opportunities to try, so you can really learn what you like. Okay, I'm using the wet brush. Can really lift it off down to the amount you wanted. Come back, add a little bit more if you feel like you lifted too much. It's interesting how much control there is. I like that. Place them down. Second brush can just smooth and control it out. I like that. Makes for very subtle layers here of the lighter tone on top. Okay, subtle layer, clean brush. Blends it out. I like that. Okay, let's keep going. Lay in a subtle layer. Okay, clean brush. Smooths and blends it out. Ooh, that was a lot. Never fear. The clean brush will save the day. And pull it out. I think I pulled too much out. A little bit back. There. Blend it out. Very nice. Subtle and blend. Subtle and blend. Keep that clean brush clean. Subtle and blend. Okay, one more little area here. Good. Okay, I can see now as it's drying. Again, remember you need to let things dry because it will change as it's drying, and you can go back and blend things out or add more depth, whatever you think it needs. I think it's looking good. Let's clean both these brushes. We've got lots of our lime color still that we mixed. This is pretty much gone. It's just covering the bottom of the little pan there. So I would like to use that color since we have it mixed. And I'm getting messier and messier, but that's okay. Let's use that lime maybe out here. That could be neat. I don't know. Let's wait. I want to bring in a third color. So we've got orangey reds and orangey yellows, and then we've got the greens, the yellowy greens. So I'm wondering about either a blue, or I'm wondering about purple. We have a metallic purple that could be interesting. Let's bring the metallic purple up, which is pear purple iris. Oh, pearl purple iris 218. Let's find that one. Pearl purple iris. Wow, that's a hard one to say. Pearl purple iris. That's this one. Let's see how that feels. Ooh. I kind of like the purple with the orange and the green. All right, let's do that. And I believe that's in this swatch square way over here. So I'm going to swing our palette around so you can see where I'm pointing. Right here. Make sure. Pearl purple iris. I don't see where else it would be except for right there. So we're going to assume your pearl purple iris. Yeah. I'm going to add a little bit more to you because we have a lot to cover. And we need to activate it. Okay, so I'm thinking these sort of scalloped areas is the purple. It's going to be the purple. Okay, and we may tone it down, add a little silver to it. We'll see. I don't know. We might add gold. Okay, I'm going to use the back end. I'll just use the front end. Let's stir this up and activate it. Get it going here. So this is just straight pearl purple iris. No white or any other colors, so it should be easy to make more if we need more, because we didn't really make it. Okay. Let's see how it looks on here. I'm going to just go for the middle. Now, because it's the pearly kind, it's already got the mica in it, which is going to give it a bit of a grayed out kind of look. I might need a couple layers. My experience with metallic paint is when you want to get it to lay down really smooth, it needs a couple layers. So we're going to work off of that knowledge. Of course, that's with watercolor, not with gouache. We're going to work off of that theory, though, and lay down one kind of light layer without trying to get rid of all the streaks. And then we'll come back with a second layer. Plus, the second layer will amp up the reflectivity and make it look even more metallic. So 2 coats is probably a good thing. I'm thinking we'll do gold here, the purple here, and then the gold in the next scalloped area, and then the purple in another scalloped area. We'll kind of do a combination here. So if we have purple, gold, purple, gold. That's what I'm thinking. Let this sit and dry really good, and then we'll come back and do a second coat. So let's do the purple out here, and I think for that coat, this little brush, do we want to up to a bigger brush? I've got a bigger brush here. I've got a number 4 round that I think will work a little faster than what I've got going here. I'm going to clean this off. And we're going to put a little bit more. I can tell already we're going to need more. Okay. So this is my Mimik by Creative Mark brush. I have links to these brushes in my Amazon storefront as well, if you're interested in these. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad we went with purple. Purple, of course, is blue with red mixed in. And I think it looks nice next to our orangey tones, which of course is yellow with red mixed in. So I think because they both sort of have red as a common undertone, I think that's why they are looking good together. Now, I also think that's why gold is the better way to go with our metallic that we're going to pair it with instead of silver, because gold is that yellow, more of a yellowy color, and yellow goes well with our green tone and of course with the yellow tone. So the gold should pair those well. So this brush, of course, is a bigger brush. It is a number 4, yeah, number 4 round. So that means the bristles are longer, but it's also a different kind of bristle. So it's behaving differently with the gouache. It's picking up more gouache. And that's partly because it's a bigger brush and partly because of what the bristles are made of. And I'm liking the feel of this experience. I feel like I can get more control because these bristles are more flexible than the other bristles. Now, having bristles that are more rigid can be really helpful in other circumstances. So that's why a lot of artists have multiple kinds of brushes. That's why there are multiple kinds of brushes. And you want to pair the right brushes with the right project. Watercolor brushes are meant to be really thirsty, bristled brushes that hold a lot of water, a lot of paint. Some brushes are more rigid so that they can be worked more. You can really work the paint, be more aggressive with the paint on your paper or your canvas. So if that's the kind of technique you need that you're doing, then you want to go after that kind of brush. Okay. I'm also liking the way this is looking with the green. Like they feel like they belong together. The more toned down colors of the green and the purple, they sort of feel like they belong together, where the reds and oranges were so poppy and happy and bright. So I like that about this combination. All right. Hope my hair hasn't been in the way too much. I know I really lean in there sometimes. there. And then we'll look back at that first purple section we did in the middle and decide if we need to do a second coat or not. Because that should be pretty dry by the time we've gotten all the way around here. I'm going to ask Steve to do me a favor because I have an idea of what I want to do for the background. And for that, I'm going to need Steve's help. So Steve, could you do us a favor? Could you print this mandala that I'm working on onto just a piece of cardstock? Doesn't really matter which kind of cardstock, because I'm going to cut it out and use it to help me mask my work. So is it possible to print it to be exactly the same size as this one here? I guess that should be my question for you.
So you want that mandala printed on cardstock?
Yeah, if you print it on cardstock, will it come out exactly the same size?
Yeah, if I print it on the same printer.
Okay, if you could do that, that'd be awesome. Okay, let's see how this is looking now. Ooh, shine, look at that. I do think it needs a second coat. But I think it's going to go a lot faster and be a lot easier. Now we don't want to, the second coat needs to be just as thick, as far as don't make it a more watery coat, because if it's more watery it will just activate this first layer. So we don't want a really watery consistency here of the paint. And we're going to do it just quick and easy here. Just a quick top coat. Like that. Don't be too fussy about this because we're going to be adding other details. Okay, let's see if we can figure out where it's wet. That feels dry. I think this is where we can just go over it really quick. Quick second coat. And then we're going to grab the gold. Have to go look and see if we want to do the bronze, because I think there were two that were really extra shiny. There was the bronze and the gold, if I remember right. We'll have to look and see which one we think will look best with our color palette. Oops, I went over the edge of that. Well, Okay, Steve just delivered that printout. That's one good thing about getting your coloring pages from someone like us here at Coloring Bliss. You can print multiple copies for the type of masking we're going to be doing here. It's starting to get hard to know where I've been and where I haven't been with the second coat. But that's a good sign. That means we're getting a really good coverage here. Okay, that looks good. I see one spot that I missed on that middle medallion thing. That's bugging me, so we're going to try to get it. Okay. That's looking good. Okay, let's pick the gold we want to use. Clean this brush really good. That gouache starts to dry on those bristles. There. That's better. Okay, now let's look at, we've got this bronze color and this gold color I want to pick from. The gold is definitely more leaning towards this color. Yeah, I think we'll go gold. Gold 251. So on the palette, it is, let's see if I can figure out where it is. 6, 12, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 is bronze. Where's gold? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 30. Let's buy that mid-yellow. And buy, is that it right there? That's it right there. Okay, so 251. Find the gold right here. 251. Okay. Activate it. And put some more down. Okay, so we're going to do this scalloped area, and we're going to do this area out here with this gold. So I think this brush that we started using last time, the number 4 round, is going to be the best one again for this sized area. Stir that in with the older paint that's on the palette. Okay. Pretty color. Okay, let's get it on here. We're going to do the same thing. One quick coat and then come back to really get rid of all the streaks and get that shine we're after. gold is more streaky than the purple. Okay. One little section left. Oh no, this gold is a little troublesome to work with. It's like it's drying extra fast. Makes it thick and a little bit chunky on my brush. Kinda not fun. Sure pretty. It's not very fun to work with. Okay, now let's do these with the gold. I'm going to put a little bit more onto the palette. Try to scrape some off my brush here. There. Okay. Yeah, this is difficult to work with. I'll be glad when this part's done. Okay, I'm going to put more gold onto my palette. seems to lay down better when there's more on your brush. I think what's happening is it's just drying really, really fast. Drying's the wrong word. It's sort of turning to like a moussey gel kind of consistency as it's drying. So it gets really difficult to move around. But because of that, it's going down pretty thick, which hopefully will make it even more metallic. But you can see as I'm laying it down really thick, it doesn't go far. I'm bringing quite a lot of paint over. And just kind of it doesn't want to move. I'm sure if I added water to it, well, that was messy. If I added water to it, it would move more, but it would also become more translucent. And I don't want that property. I want it to stay as opaque as possible. So I'm left having to lay down a lot of paint here. It definitely feels more like an acrylic because of this. This one does at least. The gold. Okay. In fact, if I didn't know any better, I would say this was an acrylic. If someone just squirted some out onto a palette for me and told me to paint, I would probably guess, the way this is behaving, that this is an acrylic. That's why a lot of people call gouache sort of like a mock acrylic. The properties of a watercolor with acrylic type properties is what a lot of people say about gouache. And this one is really living up to that. I can't believe how long it's taking me to paint these little areas. Whew. Goodness. me. That whole blob of paint going to need to go onto this one little element. I am about done with the gold. It's getting messier and messier as we go because I'm getting more and more frustrated with it. Interesting. I really enjoyed the purple. You wouldn't think that the two would be so different with the way they go down onto the paper. Okay. Whoa. Sheesh, it made me work for that. Okay, let's clean up the center here and need more gold. We're going to go through this gold fast. If it's always like this. I'm going to clean this brush off though. See if that will help the situation. Get any dried bits of gold off my bristles. Okay, that feels clean. Okay, let's do this center. I'll move it in the light so you can see how shiny this is looking. And let's just quickly go over the center, smoothing out any weird strokes and amping up the metallic nature, getting rid of any of the white of the paper, cleaning up the edges. My edges are kind of messy. I kind of don't care anymore because the gold is being so problematic. And we can distract these little imperfections with other details, so I'm not too worried about it. This the streaks I'm worried about. More gold. There, that's looking better. Oh, did you bonk your head, Rose? Okay, that looks better. It's not perfect, but like I said, I'm a little annoyed by this gold, so I don't want to play with it anymore. If you were a neighbor friend, I would send you home. Okay, so I think we've got the majority of the details done. If I wanted to add some pearly white details onto here, we could. But I think what I want to do is play around with the background now. My vision here is I've got this printout that Steve just did for me. And what I'm going to do is cut out the mandala shape so that we can protect what we've created here. So I want this to dry without me sticking my hand in it. So I'm going to move it out of the way. And I think I can cut into it and then we can tape it off. Yeah, that should work. So I'm going to carefully cut this out real quick. So what we're creating is called a mask. And there's lots of different ways to mask a project. You can use tape, Post-it notes, just some pieces of random paper. There's lots of ways, especially if you're working in like a coloring book that you can't print off an additional copy of the image you're coloring. But lucky for me, I can do that. So I'm going to cut out the area that I want to protect from the background I'm going to be playing with here. They even have something called masking fluid, which is kind of like rubber cement. Doesn't smell very good, and you can get it in like pen format or in a bottle that you paint it on. And you paint it onto your project in the areas that you don't want your paint to go. And then you let it dry really good. And then you do your painting, and then when you're ready, you rub off the masking fluid. And it comes off kind of like rubber cement would, kind of in this chunky, plasticky consistency. A little bit hard to get off. And you have to be careful how you apply it because it can ruin paintbrushes if you use the kind that is in a bottle. But masking fluid is a really fun art tool to play with. Okay, I almost have this cut out. You can use stencils to mask areas that you want to add texture for background, or you can even use stencils to add texture to something you're coloring too, like make it look more like grass or clouds. So masking is a really fun technique to try. All right. I think I need to sharpen these scissors. Okay, so we have it cut out now. So we have our mask. Our gouache is probably dry now on our coloring page. Next thing I need is something to protect our background. So I have this plastic cutting board. I picked these up at dollar store. You got 2 for $1. These just cheap plastic cutting boards, and they work perfect getting them in behind a book like this. So we're going to use that. I'm going to move this out of the way now, a rotating board. Okay. So I would like to have a bit of a border on here. So I'm going to use my blue tape. This is low tack painter's tape. And sometimes it has too much tack even though it's low tack. So a really good technique is to just tap it up and down onto your pants or your t-shirt, and that will take some of the extra stickiness away, and then it won't be so sticky on your paper. So the idea is not to damage your paper when we pull it off. Okay. Good. I'm taping it straight to the plastic cutting board here. Tap it up and down on my pants. Get it a little fuzzy. There's other kinds of low tack tape that you can purchase as well. I like the blue one because I use it for hanging art on my walls. Okay. I will give a bit of a nice crisp white line along the edge. Let's tape off the top too. Okay. There we go. Now we have our mask that Steve printed for us, and it should, because he printed it with the same printer and everything, it should go right over our art and keep all the paint that we're going to be putting over this off of our main image here. So that looks really good. We need to secure it here though, so as we're working it doesn't move about. So we'll use some tape here. I think I want to tape it down. And I think we'll just do a loop and gently, because I don't want it to pull tape our art up. Make sure there's very little to no tack on there. Line it up. Okay. So our art is covered and protected. Okay, so my thinking is we have all these pretty crumbs. And I've never tried this before, what we're about to try. So you're in for some fun experimenting here with me. We've got all these crumbs and they're all water activatable, right? So what I want to do is sprinkle these crumbs around on our background. And basically we have crumbs from every tube of the 60 different colors here. And then we're going to spray it with water and see what it does. We're going to spray this top part first and see what it does. Okay, I'd like so you can see. Let's see if I can move it here into the other there. Okay. So I'm going to kind of hold our masking paper down and give it a spray. Now remember, we're on watercolor paper, so I can be pretty aggressive with my water application. And we'll just let that water melt all those little speckles of paint. Good. Let it do as it pleases. Now we're going to do the same thing here. Little speckles and crumbs of paint all along the edge here. It's going to be like confetti. Now we're starting to run out of my confetti. So what we're going to do is, with my palette, just make some new confetti. Knock these colors around here. Make some new confetti. Don't want really big chunks, just the cute little chunks. Yeah, like that. And little chunks here, little chunks here. Some chunks of pink. Some yellow chunks. Ooh, that's metallic. It does not want to chunkify. Okay, let's get some red chunks. Let's get some, let's see, purpley chunks. Let's get some of these like pale peachy chunks. I'm going to break them up a bit more here. And more yellow. Let's see, I don't think I've got much green. Let's get some green chunks in there. And this hot pink. Okay. Now we can add these crumbs. That's a big chunk. Okay, let's activate this and see how it looks. Looking good. Okay, now I'd like to add some gold. We're going to activate my gold. I'm running out of spritzing water. There we go. I would like to put some gold spritzes around, so we're going to use our brush and a lot of water. Fill this brush up with some really watered down gold. There we go. And then we can do the spritz. Now the paper is wet as well, so it's going to hit the wet paper and kind of bloom into the water. This way the overall speckles will be gold. Okay, I like that. It's still in general feeling a little bit messy, not intentional. So we want it to feel like the speckles are intentional. So I'm going to add more. Let's go for some purple. Metallic purple speckles now. When in doubt, add more speckles. I think I'm going to try a bigger brush, a floppier brush. Let's grab, this is that Arteza Zero liner. I think it might be the longest of the liner ones. See if that gives us a better speckly flip. Yeah. Okay. Now, kind of taking a look to see if things are activated good enough, how we like the look of it. I see somewhere the water is pooling a little too much, so we're going to pull that water off. I think in general I might do a little dabbing here. Oh yeah, that kind of neat. Kind of does a, it does like a press, like a stamp. Ooh, that's neat. Ooh, I like that. Oh, that's really cool. Let me show you in a different angle here what it's doing. Definitely making the speckles be more speckly. This is more what I had in mind. Look at that paper towel. Now we're looking more like a mass of speckles everywhere. That's more what I had in mind. Okay, that's some craziness going on. Ooh, I can't wait to do the reveal here. All right. Let's clear a path for our reveal. I'm going to move that palette and move our brushes. My overall feelings on the brushes is I think 15 little detail brushes might be a little too many, at least for my kind of painting. I need maybe 4 or 5 detail brushes and I'm good to go. But they worked fine. They seem like good quality, so yeah, they seemed like decent brushes, so yeah. All right, so let me move that paint out of the way and we're gonna move this front and center so you can see the reveal. Let's start by taking our mask off very gently and see what happened underneath. Okay, so some of the water has gotten under and gotten to our gold. So I have a couple choices. We can leave it, this distressed gold type look, or I can fix it and go over with some more gold gouache. You can see it's just soaked right into the cardstock. So I'm going to see what I think when we take this blue tape off. Do I like that sort of distressed look? We can repeat it over here and just embrace it. Kind of thinking I might do that because I'm kind of liking this distressed look. Let's see though. Let's finish the reveal and then decide what to do. Put that over there. Okay, so when you pull off your tape, make sure you pull it back on itself like that. That's the best way to avoid damaging your paper, even if you are using low tack tape. Okay. I see another place where the water has gotten a little out of control. Right there. Okay, got it. Okay. And then up here, we can lift some of that because it got a little dark up there too. Okay, take that plastic away. Throw the tape away. Okay, I'm just gonna wipe things down a bit. We have paint and water kind of everywhere here, including on me. Okay, so let's take a look at this in the light. There's so much metallic going on. I'm loving it, and I'm loving this distress type look more and more. So we're going to embrace it and add a little bit more. So I'm getting my paper towel, just damp, not drippy wet, but just damp. And the texture from the paper towel is probably going to transfer over to the paint. So I need to be ready for that. So let's see what this does. See if I need more water or if I got it right. We don't know until we lift it. Here. It's starting to lift it, but I think we need a little bit more water. So I've got more water here now. Let it soak in because I don't want too much. Okay, now I'll soak it on and kind of spread it out onto it. And then lift it up. There, now that one's looking a little more roughed up. Let's do right here too. I like how these ones over here that it happened kind of naturally to it, but it looks rough and I don't know, I like it. It's definitely not what I planned. A little crumb of paint there. I'm gonna remove that crumb. Okay, there we made that one look a little bit more crumbs of paint. I'm gonna lift some of this here too because it's looking really dark up here. So I'm just gonna gently lift without messing too much. Okay. I like it. Now we're going to bring up the white. And we've reserved our titanium white. Remember our titanium white that we suspect is the same as the other white. And that one doesn't want to open either. I'm going to grab from the other kit. I'm just going to put a little white here on this piece of plastic and grab one of the tiny little liner Arteza liners. This is actually a spot brush. This is the 4/0 spot brush. And we're going to go in now, and this is one of the great things about gouache is you can add white at the end. And we're going to add some white details for fun. I'm not going to be too fussy here because everything about this is turned into very loose and free type coloring. Ooh, I like this. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing here in the center. Be careful not to put your hands in the wet paint, Jennifer. I need to bring up that rotating board again. Okay, I like that. And I think that might be the last of the details I want to add. I like it. Let's take a look at it from above. I like it. So that is my gouache coloring page using Arteza Goauche and a little unexpected fun confetti background. Let me move it in the light so you can see all of the metallic beautifulness that happened here. I'll hold it up here too so you can see how fun that turned out. Really like that confetti background too. That turned out really fun and was a great way to use up some of those crumbs on that palette. So now, because the gouache is so opaque, you can go back and go over your line work if you want to crisp up those black lines of the illustrations. So. Alright, so here I am with my final piece of art. I think it turned out really good. I had lots of fun with the metallics. We used both the purple and the gold metallic on this one, and then we did some color mixing, and then I just went kind of crazy with a fun confetti background, and I'm really happy with it, how it turned out. We took advantage of the properties of gouache. Remember, gouache is kind of like the cousin to watercolor. It has a lot of the same properties, but it does act differently, so you do have to use some different knowledge with gouache. For instance, with gouache typically you work light over dark, where with watercolor it's the other way around. So you can lay down your dark colors first and then come in with your light colors with gouache. But with gouache you can kind of do it any order you want, which is really fun and exciting. What you do need to remember with gouache though is that it is a watercolor, so that means that even if your paint is dry on your paper, if you come over on top of it with another color and it's more wet than the layer before, or you work it a lot with your strokes, it will reactivate that first layer of dry paint, and you can create some muddy colors, or you can use that to your benefit like we did right here where we used it, and oh, it's really blown out. Let me use it here. Where we used it when I laid in this color, I reactivated the orange yellow below and got that beautiful blend right there. So the watercolor aspect of gouache is really beneficial. So a lot of people compare gouache to acrylic. It's kind of like a hybrid acrylic and watercolor. And I would agree with that comparison. It acts very much like acrylic, where you can layer and you can come in at the very end like I did here with these white highlights. you can add a little white at the end. Where with watercolor, white is sort of a no-no. You don't add any white. You use the white of the paper. That's where your white comes from. So to me, gouache, I would recommend gouache as sort of your first step before you go to watercolor. Technically, it's what I would recommend because it's so much fun. You can layer it up, the mixing of the colors. You learn a lot about watercolor with using gouache. Now, remember things about gouache. Gouache typically dries very matte, no gloss. So if you want some shine, gouache probably isn't what you want to work with. There are some specialty gouaches like what Arteza has that is more of a metallic gouache, but in general, gouache is flat, and it usually comes in tubes like this, but it also comes in cakes and pans. You can squirt this out into cakes and pans like I demonstrated at the beginning, but it tends to crack terribly unless you add some sort of additive to it. So just plan on it cracking and crumbling in your pan, and then you won't be disappointed or discouraged. You'll need some sort of lid or a way to contain those cracks and crumbs so they don't travel into the other pans and make your other colors muddy. You don't want red moving into your blue and then you end up with just all purple colors, right? So that's another thing to remember. So how do I like the Artezas? I really like the Arteza gouache. It's a great mid-grade gouache, lots of big, bright, beautiful colors. I really particularly like the Arteza 24 set. You get 2 tubes of white, lots of big, bright, bold colors that you can then change and mix and add whites to tone them down and get some beautiful pastels and other shades of color. So I highly recommend the set of 24. Of course, the set of 60 is lots of fun. You get all their colors plus the metallics. So the set of 60, if you've got the budget for it, would be a lot of fun. But it is a big box and you're going to have to haul around all of those tubes of paint. Where the set of 24 is, well, you saw earlier, it's much more compact, easier to carry around and deal with. So I kind of think if you want to delve into the gouache world, I would recommend the set of 24 Arteza gouache. I think that's a good, budget-friendly, good variety of colors, gives you 2 whites, and away you go. The only thing that is a little questionable to me about the Arteza set is these 2 whites. They label them as 2 different whites, but they act and kind of even the pigment color on the 2 tubes is exactly the same. So I kind of think they're the same white. I don't know. Comment below. If you've got them, do you think the 2 whites are the same white? Gouache is a really cool art product. There's been a lot of talk about it here on YouTube, and like I said, I've been playing around with my gouache for quite a while, and every time I use it, I'm reminded of how easy it is to use, how instinctual it is, and I think it's going to be a favorite for colorists and beginning artists because it is so instinctual. So highly recommend you pick it up, whether it's Arteza or any other kind of student beginner grade gouache. I think it's going to be worth your money and worth your time to give it a try. So have fun with it. Thank you for joining me for this long video. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure you hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I have more videos coming your way, and I hope you have a wonderful, blissful, colorful day. Bye-bye, everyone.